brought to you by Bethel School of Technology. Learn more at betheltech.net/Ken Coleman. Are we in a white-collar work recession? Let's define white-collar work. This is not trade jobs. This is more office, your typical corporate stuff, small business as well, but you're in an office, and thus the description of white-collar, okay? The white-collar work also tends to be used as we look at work that is higher paying. So, very interesting stuff here. I'm reading some things about this. This has popped up. And I think you can make the case that we are in a white-collar work recession. In other words, the job market for your six-figure earners in white-collar jobs is shrinking. And you don't hear about this much, and this is starting to get some attention, and I'm glad it is. And so I'm going to paint the picture for where we are, and a lot of you may be caught up in this, and then I'm going to tell you, what do you do about it to not get caught up in this? Because this is a very real situation. Let's describe the situation. We know this because we see some data from Vanguard, an investment management company, very legitimate, been around a long time. And they released their latest report on hiring. And they can tell by looking at the enrollment and contribution rates of 401k retirement plans that they manage. And so they can calculate the hiring rate nationally by income level. And here's what their numbers show. We have two different levels in the job market. You could call them tiers. Two different areas of the job market. One is the blue collar trade type jobs and hourly wages. We can put that in there as well. And there's a real boom over there. Those jobs, a lot of jobs being added. A lot of this is because of the recovery from the pandemic, where we saw a lot of those hourly wage jobs drop. The trades have been booming in the middle of the pandemic and continue to do so because there's such a huge need. In fact, the trades, and you look at the trade associations, if I had every one of the big shots from all the trade associations sitting in here with me right now, they would all say, Ken, we have massive opportunity. We can't find enough people. All right, so we're seeing with high demand like that, those jobs are readily available. They pay very well. And listen, I've talked about this on the show too. Quick reminder, this is why a lot of American parents, 46% of American parents are now saying they would prefer their kids go the trade route. Whoa! Why? It's math. Less time to get in, less money to spend in getting qualified, and you actually have a better path to six figures with potential business ownership. So, more. Those who make less than $55,000, the hiring rate is held up. At 1.5%, it's still above pre-pandemic levels. But among those who make, and this is where we get to the different tiers here, those who make more than $96,000, it's actually really bad. Hiring has slowed to 0.5%. Less than half the peak in mid-2022 when we saw the Great Resignation and everybody was just like playing musical chairs and moving up and getting paid more. Okay. Now, if you remove the months of the pandemic when you saw a lot of jobs lost, this is the worst the job market has been for white-collar workers and the above $96,000 earners since 2014. And can I tell you that I'm in a Bible study with 20 guys, 25 guys every Tuesday morning. And there are a handful of guys that are really successful and have made really good money. And they've been out of work for well over a year and a half. These guys aren't duds, Alex. I mean, they're very successful. By the way, made a lot of money. And they've been smart with their money to where they're not struggling, but financially. But can I tell you, they're struggling emotionally? Just a quick reminder here on the Ken Coleman Show, one of our core values is that we believe that we were made to work. And I can tell you these guys who could retire from their investments, they're in tears. Why? They're not working. So let's keep going. And then we're going to land this plane on what do you do if you're in this situation? How do you try to avoid getting stuck in this white-collar recession? So let's look at a couple reasons why, and this will help us now determine what we do. Here's a few reasons why we could be in this recession. Number one, the Great Resignation is done. People aren't moving a lot. And so there aren't as many open jobs in these white-collar jobs. People are staying put. They're kind of worried. When does this economy start to dip? We've been in kind of a real weird economy for the last several years. And people are starting to go, well, this isn't going to last forever. And so there you go. That's one. Now, here's another one. We've seen a lot of layoffs in tech and finance. These big public companies are making headlines for cutting fat. Hello, high salaries. And so when these major companies do it, public companies do it, then a lot of your tech and finance companies that aren't big, they kind of follow suit. So that's interesting. We're also seeing a lot of headlines where major CEOs said, you know what, we've got too much, we're top heavy, too many executives. Mark Zuckerberg, this is a great quote, found this quote, Mark Zuckerberg said, managers managing managers, managing managers, managing managers, managing the people who are doing the work. It's a great Zuckerberg quote. And so that's another reason. And so if you are out of work or you get laid off or a division is shut down, and this is the couple of guys that I'm talking about, this happened to them, and they make really good money. They're very talented, but they're in a situation where companies are going, if you make really good money, and I'm talking like mid to high six figures here, those jobs aren't readily available, and this is the idea here. And so companies are pulling back on costs, and so when budgets are tight, what's happening is you have a combination here, I think, of lower hiring and less quitting. And I think people are just sitting right now. This is the great sit. It's the great stay. It's kind of like, let's just see how this economy goes. We got a presidential election coming up. You've got inflation moving back up. The Fed saying we're not doing anything on rates. I think a lot of people are like, man, are we headed for some financial storm? And we've been in such a low unemployment rate. And so at some point the job market cools. And so what do you do about this? All right, number one, I cannot emphasize enough that even in the best of times, you need to act like it's the worst of times. And I'm not a sky is falling guy, but in the best of times professionally, you need to keep your foot on the gas to stay connected to people, because when the shoe falls, you better have a strong connection network to where you've got some opportunities. Where people go, man, this guy just became, or this gal just became a free agent, and we need them. They're valuable. Number two, build up your cash reserves. Build up the rainy day. I cannot tell you how these guys have stayed afloat because they were really, really smart with their money. Number three, have a side gig, some type of consulting or maybe a side hustle that could be ramped up if you needed it. I think if you do those three things, you can make yourself white-collar recession-proof. But that's the facts right now. So we're seeing a contraction right now on higher-paying white-collar jobs, and you need to be aware of that and protect yourself. This is the Ken Coleman Show. Launch your tech career today at betheltech.net/Ken Coleman.